Damon, what is up? Welcome to the next episode of the Better Humans podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the line. Everyone, this is Damon Burton, head of SEO National, and I'm super excited to get online with him. Actually, for a handful of reasons, but for the most part, it's because I actually believe that Damon is like, boom, stamp of approval, is a better human, and like embodies everything that we love to talk about and discuss and kind of like showcase here on the show. So Damon, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Jamie. Thanks for having me. We're going to talk about all this cool, deep, personal stuff, and this is only the second time we've had a minute face to face, so it'll be fun.
I know. That's actually kind of the crazy part, is that for a lot of folks, like, it's what I kind of like recognized about you and some of like your character and generosity, and like we'll get to that in a bit, but like just something that I noticed about you just out of the gate is like how much you share and try to help and uplift others. And so I was like, we need to do a podcast together. Like, we need to just get on the line and like talk about all this stuff, because what happens from here is basically we put this out into the world, and then it gives other people kind of like the example to follow, or like the permission, or the capability, or even the frameworks of what it means to go out and actually like to serve and like be a part of community and be a better human and do good things for people. So yeah, I just appreciate you agreeing to come on the line, like, even though this is like the second time of us like getting together and chatting.
And the first one wasn't super long. I mean, I think we both had stuff to do, and it was just a hello. So
yeah, and you know, it was because we're in like all the same circles. Like, I have like 4 friends. Like, literally, I'm pretty sure that like when I reached out to you, I was like, hey, just really fast, I don't want anything from you. I just literally want to like be friends with you and talk to you, because I've got 4 other friends that have all been like, Damon Burton's legit. This is one of the like the greatest guys. Like, he knows his stuff. He's super helpful, super valuable, and like is just a really good person. I was like, everyone's talking to Damon, and like we've been friends on like internet friends, but like and running in the same circles everywhere, but like haven't talked to each other. And I was like, I'm gonna reach out to him. Like,
yeah,
what's the worst that can happen? This guy who everyone says is super amazing actually goes like no, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the first thing that I want us to kind of like talk about today, and what I want to say to you, that I can't move on and move forward in this conversation without first saying a gigantic thank you to you. So for everyone tuning in, like, you probably noticed, for any of like my followers who've been listening along for a while, we haven't published a podcast in a little bit because my wife and I have been super busy kind of like having our second baby. So took a big break from the podcast for a while, but in the middle of all of that, like, you know, we mentioned Damon and I had our little, you know, like conversation, just intro, just like, hey, it's like ships passing, and like, okay, great, we'll figure out a time to like do more stuff and talk more and like do like whatever. Damon sent out like a gift box. Like, at first I want to know, like, how did you find that gift box? And second, I'll just let everyone know, like, it's this package of like chicken noodle soup that comes, but it's like actually like healthy ingredients. Like, it's not Campbell's soup, it's like legit chicken noodle soup, and like bread rolls, and like these like soft baked cookies, and this decorative ladle that you can like ladle all the soup out of and everything. And like, my wife and I were sitting there like, what? Why? Like, do we deserve this? Like, this is so special. This is so thoughtful. Like, we just met this guy. It's so nice. Yeah. And so yeah, I need to say thank you to you, because my wife and I, we were both like, this is so cool. Like, we want to turn around and go give that to other people as well. Like, as they are like, whatever like life events they're going through, like, sure, like other people are having babies, we'll ship them a box too. But like, I don't know, like whatever other life events, if they need like food, if they need stuff like that. So thank you. And then B, how did you come across that gift? Like, how did you know like about that company?
Yeah, so thank you. There is a company called Spoonful of Comfort, and they were actually a client a long time ago. So we haven't worked with them in a couple of years. We kind of blew them up, and then they you know, sometimes we take people big and then they bring everything in house. And so we did their SEO, and they were one of our first big successes. We probably worked with them, it's probably been like 15 years, 16 years, and And it's interesting, the things that you mentioned about the unboxing, because really, like, it's a food gift, but really it's an unboxing experience. And I'll talk about just a couple brief things here. So that's how I know them, is they used to be a client, but they're a cool family-owned business. So the lady that started it because her mom had cancer, and so like she had wanted some comfort food, and so it turned into this like experience for them, and then they went on to turn it into a product. And then where they had like a lot of success was when they shifted from presenting themselves as a food product to an unboxing experience. And it's just like you said, right? Like, you and I didn't talk about this before we hit record or anything, and just the way that you talked about it is exactly how that product was built, was to share value and have an experience. And so it's just a cool product that I had the opportunity to support years ago, and just kind of stayed in touch and kept sending it because it's such a cool, unique kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, man, we appreciate that. I can't emphasize that enough, that like we super appreciate you doing that for us. And we had started a meal train, and it seemed like we were gonna be okay. Like, the second baby, like, very, very fortunately, has been a breeze. And where's my wood to knock on, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can't, you can't say stuff too loudly because the baby's listening, right? But he sleeps and he eats, and he fills up his diapers, and like, he does everything that he's supposed to do. So we've been really, really fortunate in that, and we've had a ton of support. But at that point in time, we were like, I guess we'll probably just order some food. And then boom, right there, like literally in the afternoon before dinner time, like what lands on our doorsteps, like dinner shows up. And so we were like, oh, we don't need to go like order food. Like, food just showed up. And so, man, it was so nice. And we're very, very appreciative of you. And that's kind of like where I want to start with us today, is actually it's generosity. But more specifically, like, I want to ask you just a question about, like, can you talk to me about generosity in your life, and maybe even like charity and just giving in your personal life, and then also in the business? For you, is it a tool, or is it like a natural byproduct of who you are? Is it part of a belief system that you're in? Like, how does generosity, charity, and giving work for you?
This is an interesting question, because it's something that is more of a personal thing, but we have started to integrate it into the business. So it started really as just something that I enjoyed doing, that also, felt important and felt good to, like, you talk about love languages and things like that. And like, my outward love language is like giving gifts. Like, I really enjoy giving things, but at the same time, I hate swag, right? I hate generic stuff. And so it's like, how do you give something that means something, but you also don't have to like reinvent the wheel every time? Like, just like you talked about, now you want to pay that forward, and that's a thing that you can give people. And I've given other people a spoonful of comfort, and just like you said, for other life events. One funny one, just the way that you are kind of narrating it was funny, because we have a mutual friend, Josh 40, and I've sent him a spoonful of comfort, and I've sent him some other things, and you'll have to ask him about this sometime. But one time he's like, I can't remember if he posted, no, I think it was on his podcast, and he goes, dude, for the first few weeks, I was like, what does this guy want? Like, why does he keep sending me? So, like, he thought I was like, had an agenda, and like there was an ulterior motive. And then finally, him and his wife go, oh, it's just the way he is. And so like, I do it almost like at scale, because it's personally fulfilling for me. So then, as I have, got feedback over the years and things like that, then on the business side, then touch points are important for business, especially if you're in like B2B, where I'm in a service-based industry. And especially what I do is slow and takes a long time. And so we have to come up with ways to make the, like, even though, so for the listeners, I run an SEO agency. And so a lot of the stuff the customers don't see on a day-to-day basis. And so a lot of the deliverables are behind the scenes. And so how do you make a customer feel comfortable that they're spending a lot of money knowing that stuff is moving forward if you're not telling them every day that things are moving forward? So we started to work in these touch points, but also without doing it, like I said, like I hate swag. And so we don't want to just like send them mugs and send them things like that. And so we've worked in repeatable processes where it's like, week one, we send them these welcome kits that have these really cool stories about these, in the welcome kit, we send them a 2,000-year-old Roman coin, like a real 2,000-year-old coin. And then we tell them a story about this coin. And then a month later, we send them a handwritten thank you card that says, thanks for the opportunity to support your business. And so everything's like very manual and, but scalable and repeatable.
Scaling the unscalable, as some people have coined it, like
putting
the human touch in.
Yeah. And so, so over the years, when you realize how important just that little human touch is, then we've worked it in pretty heavily into the SOPs.
Dang. How do you okay, why a Roman coin? Why a 2,000-year-old coin? And then B, how do you find that? Like, do you have to go to a museum and like, I'll buy a coin, and then how do you get that?
Good question. No, so I had a friend named Donnie Tuttle, and he had sent me a Roman coin, and he sent me a coin just as a thank you for things I'd helped him with. And in the coin, he wrote me he had this handwritten note that said these really great quotes and stories, and I'll tell you what they are in a minute. But I asked Donnie if I'd have permission to kind of reshare his story and work it into my SOPs, and he said yeah. And so you can surprisingly just get them on like eBay and Instagram, and that they're unique enough that they're cool, but they're prolific and available enough that like you can just jump on, and you can buy unlegible ones for like $5, or really fancy, fully readable ones that are polished for $100 to $500.
Yeah.
So they're readily available, but they're still so unique. I mean, just like you had no idea, and everybody else generally doesn't have an idea unless you're in the collection world too. And the story that Donnie shared was about how thousands of years ago, that coin was like the average labor, like the pay for labor. And he talks about how people trade the significant for the insignificant, trade your time for these little tiny specks of metal. And I thought it was just such a great story. And so I just took a slight different angle to it, but still talked about trading insignificant for the significant. And what I worked in was, by you choosing us as your SEO agency, you now have saved time that you can go spend on things that matter more to you. And so I share the story of the Roman coin, and then work it into about how the value exchange is done within the agency now.
Okay. That's crazy. Like, in a good way, not like a bad crazy. Like, just like, if I'm pretty sure if I ever received that, I'd be like, this guy's not just like wheeling and dealing SEO powered by chat. Like, he's actually like a legit he's like a legit business. Like, as like a business owner, like, okay, you're thinking in terms of like the mutual interest and shared values that your customers have, right? Like, you're playing at that same level with them. And so I always try to like pick out little things like that kind of like elevate people into like, you operate at a different level and a different standard than what like is just like generally accepted in business. I can like go online and just like Google like an SEO agency, maybe even like a local SEO agency, but going into partnership with someone who like is thinking about the like my time and my business like in my best interest, like they're usually thinking about their own best interest. I'm just recognizing a lot of that about you, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's I launched a training program this year where I help other agency owners, and so I send them a copy of my welcome kit that I send customers, and so then they have a reference of what you just talked about. And it's interesting because my newest student, I just sent him that welcome kit last week, and the first thing he did when he got it is he took a picture and he sent me a message and said, "Thank you for increasing my minimum standards." And he had just been exposed to that kit. That was it.
Yeah, like now he doesn't land a client without also turning around and shipping something significant, right? Mm-hmm. So I love that. Yeah. That's awesome. So Damon, I want to shift gears a little bit here. We talked about this a little bit earlier that like I was gonna like hint at this, but So I've been like kind of like reading some of your stuff on Facebook and like kind of like perusing around, and kind of in the past recently, you mentioned like doing an exercise routine for like 21 minutes or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
So you like exercise for 21 minutes, but I'm pretty sure it was literally you just like flexing on all the bros. And then
I just went and found whichever one was the longest in my history. Yeah.
And there was another one about like a plane trip that you took with your wife. Like the plane trip was the vacation. Is that ringing a bell?
I remember that one. We travel a lot, so I'm not.
Okay, it was like a
was it the
plane ride?
Yeah.
for a very
Okay.
specific purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
That one's not that one's not recent. I get where you're going now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're picking up what I'm putting down, right? So
Yeah.
For anyone who's not picking up what we're talking about here, Damon has shared some things on social media about his relationship with his wife, but like all the like jokes, haha aside, about that, it actually has my attention, just because like in terms of relationships and intimacy and like openness to share, I'm actually really curious about your marriage specifically and like how things are. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah. And I'll fill in the blanks for the listeners. So my wife and I, we've been together 21 years. We've been married for 19. And so I love her more than ever. So the intimacy thing is less about us and more about, one, they're funny stories, right? But I also, probably the majority of my posts in general are, the main reason why I post on social media is because there's, more often than not, there's a wild card. And in that wild card, it's inspiring somebody. And so I get messages on a weekly basis of somebody saying whatever it is they shared resonated with them in whatever way it falls in their life, and it opens up a door for them. So the two posts that, for the listeners that Jimmy's talking about, the exercise thing is I have an Aura ring. So if you're not familiar with Aura, it's kind of like the Whoop band and things like that, and it measures your health. And so I made a post that said, pro tip, your sex counts as downhill skiing on your Aura ring. And so it's just funny. Like, I just thought it was a funny post to make, but it's also, I think there's a little bit of confidence in opening up others to feel like intimacy with their partner isn't necessarily taboo. Now, at the same time, I never go in, like, either of those posts you mentioned weren't graphic at all, right? And so the plane one was... Yeah, and so the plane one was, there's a company called Love Cloud out of Las Vegas, and my wife and I, we go on trips all the time, and so we do, when we have a one-on-one trip, we'll go, just like, we travel so much that traveling is not novel, and so I try to find novel things while we travel. And so Love Cloud is this, you can rent a private plane in increments of like an hour. And then like their whole pitch is like, you get a private room and you can have sex, And so, I mean, you're in denial if that doesn't sound like something cool to do with your partner. And so when I posted it, it was less about, again, there's nothing graphic about it. It was sharing the experience. It was an amazing experience. And so the company, you can get a limo and they pick you up and you go, it's at the Las Vegas airport, so it's a major airport, but you don't have to go through security. They have a, backdoor gate because it's a private plane. You pull up and they have like I don't know the proper word, but like a chauffeur, and, they have like a concierge that's waiting for you. And then you meet the pilot, and the pilot's super professional, and they walk you through, and they're like, when we board, I'm going to give you a training about the safety. So they go through the safety stuff like usual. But then they walk you through like how you can have your time discreetly. And so there's like little signals where it's like, I'll flash the overhead lights, and that means you have your time to yourself. And then, an hour later, I'll flash them again, and you got 10 minutes to clean up and put your clothes on, right? And they walk you through. They're like, for the women, they have private planes are not huge, and so they walk you through in case you need to use the bathroom and all that stuff. And it's just it was a great experience that I had. And back to the wild card thing, I imagine most people don't realize that that's a thing you can do. Like that you could go have such a cool experience with your partner. And if you do know about it, you're probably embarrassed or nervous. And so by putting out there my experience, then people are like, oh, it's not a weird thing. And, I had all the same concerns, and I went through and looked up the reviews and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so then it, like you talked about before we hit record, some of these things we'll talk about will give people permission. And so the majority of the stuff that I share is to give people permission to think outside of the box, or to just share a cool thing for them to go, I didn't even know that was a thing.
Well, so when I see things like that, like my wife rags on me about it, but like I don't talk about things like pertaining to like intimacy and relationship, like in our relationship, especially. And I don't talk about things like restroom humor or anything like that. Like she calls me like a prude, because even like scenes in movies, I'm like, oh yeah, fast forward. Like, and what I actually found really interesting about this is that, when I see you post things like this, what I think is like, man, how cool that like things must be going so well for them. And I know that like I'm in my 5th year of marriage, and like amazing ups. We've traveled, like we've like done amazing stuff together, had 2 babies together, and that means that especially with having like babies and the stresses that come with that, like there's lows, right? There's like points of like contention and like an argument and disagreement and frustration and all of that stuff. And so what I look at and see with that is like, man, this is so cool that like Damon's going off and like having amazing experiences with this wife, and it had me questioning, like, I wonder if he's coached on this, or I want like a counselor maybe, but like I usually think of counselor as like we need to be counseled through something, and coached, I feel like coached is like we're aiming for a goal and we need somebody to help us get to that goal. So just out of curiosity, if you're open to answering, are you coached or counseled on your marriage? And if so, like, what does that look like?
No, not at all. I've never talked to anybody about anything about my marriage. I think it comes back to similarly what we were talking about, generosity. And so it's just a different form of that, but in my relationship. And so I've always been that way. And part of it probably goes back even before I met my wife. And so growing up, I grew up lower middle class. My parents divorced when I was 2. My mom married another gentleman who I have a good relationship with, but then they got divorced also. And then my mom married an alcoholic. And so then that alcoholic was in my life from about the time I was 9 until he died from alcoholism last year. And so I grew up with violence and, lack of financial stability and things like that. And so very early on, I recognized that. And, we all have some form of childhood traumas, and they either make or break you. And I was fortunate that I was conscious enough, aware of it enough to choose for it to not break me. And so part of those things that came into the considerations over the years was like, okay, my goals, as I would reflect on those things, is when I started to be aware of them when I was like a teenager, early 20s, was not so much like, have finance, it wasn't like run a business and be rich and stuff like that. It was just be stable and don't be broke. It's how do I not do those things? Yeah. And then through that, it was also part of the relationship. And it's like, okay, how do I not have a broken home? And so I started to be very aware of that early on. And then back to, the generosity thing, like I like other people feeling recognized. And so that comes natural in relationships too, to make sure that your partner feels recognized. And then when I met my wife, then it's been in various forms over the years, and when you're first dating, it's, cute notes and things like that, or sneaking out in the middle of the night while she's asleep and then sticking a note on her windshield wiper, right? So then when she wakes up when I'm asleep, then she sees things. And so there's forms over the years of smaller to bigger. But then, being together a long time, then it's like, you have to you have to think about new things and new ways to keep that same uniqueness alive. And so then over the years, it's like we actually have something right now. When is this potentially going to drop? Actually, she wouldn't listen to it. So
hey.
Sorry, nothing to do with you.
I'm sending it straight to her, and I'm giving her the timestamp. Is what I'm
Oh,
doing.
okay, great,
No,
great.
I mean, we'll send it out whenever you want it to go out. It's all good.
So, because we're about to go on a 3-week trip in Europe, and while we're there, this will be like I pay attention to dates, right? Like anniversaries, and so like we always kind of celebrate the day we started dating, like our first date, and then obvious anniversaries of the actual wedding anniversary. But in a couple of weeks will be the 20th anniversary since I proposed to her. And so while we're in Europe, then I'm going to do something, I'm trying to figure out the last little details of something to do to maybe potentially recreate how I proposed to her. And so I just look for little opportunities like that. And so when we had our 15-year wedding anniversary a couple years ago, we go to San Diego a lot, and there's Coronado Island is a place that we go to, and there's a guy that does sandcastles. And so I found out who he was, asked if he does commissions, and he does. And so our 15-year wedding anniversary, I upgraded her wedding ring, and then I kind of re-proposed at the 15 years too, and had this big 6-foot sandcastle commission that had her name and our anniversary dates and things like that. Flew out a bunch of friends. So a lot of it's for just a way to show my appreciation to her and our relationship. And then, another part of it's fun, these things are fun for me too. So,
yeah. So here's a fun question. And I hope it's not like overstepping a boundary or anything, but is that like receiving these things from you? Is that how she feels and like receives love, like as a person?
No, not at all. That's a good question. No, she's very much the opposite of I am. I'm soft spoken here on, podcasts and things like that. But the way that I like to do things is, I always aim for big things, and I'm not a loud person, but I'm a strong-willed person. My wife is very quiet, very humble, is not a planner, and so out of the 21 years we've been together, she's maybe planned a date twice. And so, no, it's like not in her wheelhouse at all. but it's not like I do this every day. It's like,
Yeah.
2-3 times, something reasonable twice a year, something huge every 5 years. And so it's not like she totally gets used to it, and so she certainly doesn't expect it now.
Okay. I gotcha. Yeah. Those are some things that we're learning. And so I'm literally using AI and calendars in order to make sure that I show up in ways that my wife will receive the love. And so for me, it's as long as, this is really crazy. So with my family, especially growing up, it was just as long as everybody was all in the same room together, you don't have to look at each other, you don't have to talk to each other, you don't just watch the same TV show or playing, as long as we're in proximity, right, then we're good. And what was really interesting, my wife and I, we've traveled, we sold all our stuff, boxed everything up, paid off all our debt, and then moved to Puerto Rico after 1 year of marriage. And we lived in Puerto Rico for a little while. But what brought us back home, even though we were in paradise, what brought us back was that both of us have really big families up here in North Georgia. And it was Mother's Day, and everybody was getting together, and we were on an island somewhere else, and we were just oh, we can't stay here, can we? And so even then, we both have that kind of value, but even more specific to that, my wife is someone who feels love when she's touched, physically touched, shoulder pat, head scratch, back rub, anything, right? And I'm somebody who does not do touching. I kind of mentioned earlier, I was I'm not I'm keep my space. I'm right here. You're right there. We're cool. We're chilling. All that kind of stuff. Which is wild, right? Because it's I'm married. And now I have babies who absolutely need touch. And so I'm putting all of my reservations up on the shelf because I want my wife more, and I want my babies to be like emotionally healthy more than I want to like just like,
keep your
like
space,
coast or keep my space or whatever, right? So I hope like maybe it's like connecting dots for you or for anyone who's listening. Like I'm looking at like relationships right now, especially. Just like business is busier than ever right now, man. Like it's so crazy. Like all my time's on business and stuff, so I have to really crank the dial on my relationships if I want to like keep driving all those forward. And so yeah, I noticed that about you, and I was like, man, maybe he's coach, or like even better, it just kind of like naturally exudes out of you, which is great. Like that's the best thing you could have asked for. So yeah, I appreciate your openness and like and sharing on all of this. It's just some of the stuff that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, this is fun, and I appreciate you asking. The calendar's a lifesaver, especially the longer the relationship goes, the more variables like kids. I'll give on the calendar thing. I'll give you one tip. Put multiple reminders for the same thing at different frequencies. So like, maybe go back, and if you start looking at those milestones in your relationship of your first date or when you propose or whatever it might be, and if you want to start like recognizing those, then I put reminders like the big ones, like the 10-year anniversaries. I put a reminder a year before. So then I have a long runway to think about it and get it planned.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm not going to.
That's good. You're
not going to jump on it right away, but at least you go, oh yeah, that's coming up. And then the annual ones like the anniversaries and birthdays. Then I'll do obviously the reminder that the day of or the day before, but then I'll do one like 30 days before. So then I'm not last minute going, oh, there's a thing. I got like 3 days to figure it out.
That's kind of me. My wife, bless her heart, she just had her birthday on the 30th, and she turned, however many years old.
Yeah.
Right? She's young. Don't worry, she's young. I don't want to like, it out there, But yeah, she, man, it's everything's super busy. We just had a baby. All this stuff's going on, and it's like we're cresting over the weekend, rolling into the 30th, and we were like, oh my gosh, it's your birthday. Like, we all right, we got to figure something, like literally the situation you're trying to avoid, I just went through. And of course there's all this guilt, and she's like, no, it's fine. No, it's okay. It's like, no, it's not. Like, you make a huge deal about my birthday, and like, you deserve the same. Right. And so, yeah, it's on my radar. Like, got to get better. And so I like your advice is super timely and super helpful, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So Damon, you mentioned earlier that like you have an SEO business, and I don't think a lot of people know like how like significant or like substantial the business actually is. Like I'm privy to know that like you're working with some of the biggest names in like the internet marketing and direct response marketing industry. Like, first, how is business going for you? And like, what's been going on pretty recently that is you want to like celebrate and like be excited about?
Yeah, I mean, SEO is a funny thing, at least from the mainstream attention, because for me it's very consistent, right? So I've had the agency for 18 years, and we have no email list, we have no paid ads, we don't have any formal form of lead generation, and every year it's just 2 steps forward, 1 back, which is a consistent net increase. And so we do a few $1 million a year with 0 lead generation whatsoever. And then, like you said, work with really cool people. We get the opportunity to work with you guys at ClickFunnels. We work with Tony Robbins, and lots of really cool mom and pop businesses over the years. And those all come from a lot of what we've talked about, right? Relationships and building trust and personal brand and things like that. And so what I'm excited about is I've been asked to do training forever. And I built out a training program years ago, but I realized I didn't have the time to support it. And so I didn't launch it. I didn't want to take people's money. And so over the years, I hired a COO, and then, there's a learning curve until they can fully take the keys. And now we're in a good place. My COO's had things for a year or two. And then so I went back and revisited the training. I'll actually tell you a funny story.
Okay.
It was with Russell, and so we're up at his Decade in a Day thing. So I'm in Russell Brunson's mastermind, and we go up there, and once or twice a year you get together at his office, and I had talked about this training thing for a little bit. And so if you're not familiar with this mastermind, it's just a ton of high achievers that just do crazy things like in short periods of time. And I'm the opposite. I'm like slow and steady. I love delayed gratification. Like I'm cool if it takes a year. And everyone else is like, no, I need it yesterday. And so being in this group I'm going on 4 years. And the first year it was kind of foreign to me because I was like, wait, like, everybody just does paid ads and everybody just like jumps out of airplanes and figures it out on the way down. And so for the first year, I was like, I don't want to be distracted, right? That looks cool, but there's no problems over here at the agency and I don't want to like fix what isn't broken. And then by the time I got into the second year, I talked to people and they're like, no, that's kind of the right call, because I did chase the shiny object and then I lost both of them. And so you talk about permission. And so it's kind of interesting. Like even when you're a confident person, there's sometimes you find a moment where you're like, oh, I guess I did need permission. And so in that moment, it kind of gave me permission to not jump out of the airplane and not have to do everything the way everybody else is doing. And so then now fast forward and, business in a good place. And I got my COO running things and I go up to this thing with Russell. And so you get 10 minutes of one-on-one time in front of, there's like 10 of us in the room and we each get 10 minutes of one-on-one time. And we get talking about this training and he goes, so when are you going to launch it? And at the time it was almost, I think it was July 2024. And so in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going to say end of the year. And then I'm like, there's no way he's going to let me be okay with 6 months. And so I just threw out Halloween. Halloween's like halfway, because then I'd have a couple weeks to finish the priorities I was on, and then a couple more weeks to actually get to launching the group. And then he goes, great, Halloween's perfect, because then I can hold you accountable because we have our next event like the week after Halloween. And so then I was like, oh crap, now I actually have to do this. And so I finished up the priorities that I had, and then I went to do a 2-day live event. And so what I was going to launch was like to teach people what I do, how to build an SEO agency or how to add SEO as a service to their design agency or their funnel agency or their email agency. And so I did this 2-day live training largely to validate the curriculum. It wasn't so much to make it a profitable thing on its own. And I just wanted to sell like 5 or 10 tickets, have a couple of people come in, do like a live thing. And so I rented this small co-working space and I sold they had a max capacity of 8 and I sold like 10 tickets in 36 hours. And so I was like, crap, now I need to go find a new place. So then I went and found this other place at this nice hotel. And then this place could hold up to 20 people. And then they had an expandable section behind it that could hold together like 40 or 50 people. And I sold out the 20. And so now I'm going, oh my gosh, I don't want to, there's nowhere else around here, because I wanted it close to my home, but, nice accommodations for the people that flew in. And then luckily I called like a week later and I go, oh, does somebody else have that other half? Because somebody had the other half on one of my 2 days and they ended up abandoning it. And so then I was able to take the whole thing. So then I ended up selling I sold like 50 grand because I sold them $1,000 piece. So I ended up selling 50 grand in tickets to this thing. The event went great. The curriculum went great. And then I was able to meet my obligation and go back to Russell and go, I started it. And then, so then I took a little breather because that was a lot to cram in like 6 weeks. Yeah. And then I relaunched it. And then I took all that. Curriculum was validated, and then I launched the training just a couple months ago, and it was awesome. I sold like 100 grand in 2 weeks. Nice. And then I paused it because I'm going into this big trip, and again, I didn't want to take people's money when I couldn't take care of them. But being able to finish that and get it across the finish line and validate everything and then start to build a structure around it, because in my agency I'm very driven by SOPs and documentation, and I didn't want to scale the training unless I could create the SOPs and documentation. And so now I've been able to go through the motions of formalizing everything, because you can't scale something at least well unless you can be dependent on processes and your team can be dependent on processes. And so I was very sensitive to not getting ahead of myself. But I'm excited about that. That was a long answer with a little bit of a story in between, but I'm excited to.
Good. You're excited about your training. You launched it. Yeah. You sold. You crushed. Actually, that's really good. That's awesome. Dude, that's really great. Congrats on that. And yeah, it's funny that like in this day and age, how do I put this? Like, there's so much like information, like opportunity centered around like information that's all flying around so fast that like, yeah, I have this course and like I just prompted AI like 18 times to get it to say the answers that I wanted, and I put it all in a course, and I put my voice on 11 labs, and 11 labs did all my videos. And yeah, if you buy, I'll reach out to you in like 14 days and do your onboard. It's like, it's the stuff that people are selling right now is bad because they're not putting the intentionality in the in like the transformational experience that you're talking about. It's like stuff that I look at all the time with people's course and community businesses is like, don't put anything in the course, don't put anything in the experience that has nothing to, or how to, wait, am I Englishing correctly? Don't put anything in that doesn't have anything to do with them getting the transformational result that you promised them whenever they sign up for the course in the first place. At least to start. Or tell them like, hey, once you've finished your transformational stuff, like here's your next step, and like, yeah, paint the yellow brick road for them. But like, if it doesn't have anything to do with them actually getting the thing that you promised them, like it's noise and it's a distraction, you do them a disservice and you do yourself a disservice. You've wasted their time and you've built frustrations for them. They're not going to be, advocates or promoters of your business. Like they're going to be, anyways, I could rant about this all day. And I call it like the minimum effective dosage for transformation. It's like only put the things in that actually matter, and they'll applaud you for less information and more transformation on the back end. So that level of intentionality you're talking about is super, super important. I recognize that. I'm sure anyone else who's buying courses in 2025 because they want to level up, like they get that.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that's I think important in general in entrepreneurship is that you can't outpace a bad reputation. And so when you throw a product out at the wall or at the market just for a money run, you might get lucky in the short term, but you're never recovering. Like you don't get a second reputation.
Yep. Yeah, literally. Dang. Okay. What does, so like, yeah, we're talking about like 2025 and like all the recent like crazy stuff that's coming out. What does, like, outside of like the course stuff, like just maybe more specifically to like your core business, what does like 2025 and this new like AI driven reality kind of like, what does it look like for you? Is it, you guys are getting like better results and like happier clients, or it's like introducing instability? How is it looking and feeling going forward?
It's really interesting because I've had the agency for so long. I've been through, I don't know, 3 recessions, and I there's like an industry joke where is SEO dead again? And so I now joke, like I used to say SEO dies every 2 weeks, but now I say it dies every 2 minutes because it's everybody's like AI this, AI that, and what's really fascinating is the misperceptions of the masses. Or maybe it's because I'm in a bubble surrounded by other marketers and they're just, running their mouth. And
yes. We're in a bubble. Like we're in a conversational bubble for sure. Like if you actually want your eyes opened, usually in like a lot of like major towns and cities, there's like chambers of commerce where people will like congregate, or maybe even like local business networks. If you want your eyes opened to like where the other 9 million businesses are at that aren't internet marketers out running their mouths about SEO and AI and all this stuff, like it's in there, and it's so eye-opening.
It's like a decade behind. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. That's crazy.
Well, what I run into is I'll actually share a funny story from a day or two ago. I hired this personal coach. Finally hired the first been in a lot of masterminds, but haven't hired a one-on-one coach because I just had never found the right guy that resonated for the specific things I was looking to accomplish. And this guy I've been going to him for a few months now, and so we're starting to get deeper into the relationship where we can throw jokes at each other. And like 2 days ago, we haven't talked about SEO at all. He knows that I do that because, I'm paying him to help my personal stuff. And so we're at this point where now we can kind of, BS a little bit at the beginning of a call. And so he goes, dude, I've been wanting to ask you about SEO. And he goes, when you first told me you did that, I knew that you were successful, but I was kind of behind the scenes. In my head, I was like, wow, SEO, congratulations. That's like being the chief editor at a newspaper. Like, congrats on getting there. But,
Yeah.
he thought it was just like dead. And I go, no, it's the total opposite. And he followed it up with what he asked me about was, what are the myths that I run into? And this is kind of similar to your question of where things are at right now. And it's funny because everybody talks about AI, which is great, right? AI, I don't need to tell you why there's advantages to it. But just from an SEO perspective, there's like all this, people just go with emotions and they don't actually look at data. And so there's great studies by a company called SparkToro, who, if you're in the marketing world, a guy named Rand Fishkin started that company. And before that, he ran a big SEO agency called Moz. And he's got all this interesting data. So now he's a data analyst. And so he gets all this data from behind the scenes and he makes these cool charts. And he was talking about the usage of AI. And in this study and the data, there was a lot of cool things, but two really relevant things to this conversation is one is Google dying. And it's not only are they not dying, but they grew by 22% last year. So they're not dying and they're not staying neutral. They're growing astronomically. And then two is they looked at the usage of ChatGPT versus Google. And like it was 0.25% on the pie chart was ChatGPT versus Google. So Google was 93%, ChatGPT was 0.25%, and then like Bing and Yahoo were like 4%. Like ChatGPT isn't even outpacing Bing, right? But all we hear about is AI. And then there was actually one other interesting statistic is out of that fraction of users, only 30% of that 0.25% use AI for transactions or transactional queries. The other 70% use it for make me a thing, write me some text, give me dating ideas for my wife, Yeah.
Which is really crazy because like I've only done it once, and I'm pretty sure it was like Christmas of last year. I was like, let's do some gift. Like, this is who my wife is. Like, told chat a little bit about my wife, and like, what should I buy her for Christmas? And it shot me some links, but I didn't end up clicking through on chat. I ended up going and like doing my own shopping around that. So I used it for ideation, not for actual transactions, which is really crazy. Like, maybe it'll get there one day, or maybe I'll get there one day where I'm like, yeah, chat drives all my stuff. But yeah, that's really crazy. I actually, what really made me chuckle one time was I think you had a post somewhere that was like, all of these marketers think that like AI is like the next big thing, but they don't understand what's powering the back end of AI.
Oh, it was wait until the people that think AI killed SEO find out where AI gets its information from.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like you just have like concierge SEO now. Like it's just like a layer on top of Google search results.
Yes. Exactly. It's a user interface, user experience change. So instead of people using search, it's people using AI to use search. And it'll continue to grow. And this isn't to say that, AI isn't transforming things, and it's not to say that it isn't going to continue to take more market share. It is just not significant yet, at least on a statistical commerce level.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, well, listen, Damon, this has been amazing, and honestly, I wish we could just chat for like another like couple hours because like I feel like we could just like go and go. I'm having a good time, but you've got stuff to get to. I've got babies to go rock and hold, and help out and try to be a good husband to my wife and good father to my kids. So I've got to close this out, but I want to say thank you for all the stuff. Thank you for all the information being open and like transparent, like just with your life and your business and your marriage and all of that stuff. Is there, what's the best way for somebody to get connected with you if they wanted to reach out?
Super easy, damonburton.com, and you can find your preferred method of contact on there.
Nice. Love it. Cool. Yeah, so I appreciate you coming on the line, guys. This has been Damon Burton on the Better Humans podcast, and I will catch you all on the next episode. Talk soon. See ya.